see people online clearer than I can see people in this dull Masechet here live. It's nice to see everyone after. I haven't given share since. Have I given share since Pesach? Did I give? I haven't given share. Oh, yeah, terrible. Okay, Baruch Hashem for good reasons, but it's nice to see everyone back. And there's the chus of preparing this sugya in HaTsad in the BaTeven of my Rebbe, a bit sort of Hachik. Not that I got that far in the sugya, but I'll do my best. It's a little difficult. So Kufchaf Gimel Amdalus Tonu Rabbanon Paga SheTamna BaTeven the chaburah SheTamna BaGecholim. So this immature fruit that's left in the straw in order to ripen, and this cake or loaf which is left in the coal embers in order to bake. Im Megula Muktza Mutter Talta Vim Lav Osa Talta. Rabbi Zobin Tadoyomer Teichim Bekush Bekarka Vehim Menaris Menin. So this Gemara really comes in agav the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that the kush and the karka, these pin or reeds or whatever they are, these needles and pins that are normally used for specialist melachos. Nonetheless, they can be used for as toothpicks to pick up fruits and vegetables with them, because it's a cliche melachot which is used for sof gufay. That's shut in the Mishnah, and therefore agav that halacha that they can be used as a means of picking up as a toothpick to pick up a fishbowl in a kiddush. The Mishnah then tells us that the Gemara therefore tells us this memra that which gets us into the sugya of Titul min HaTsad, Shmei Titul or Lav Shmei Titul, whether Titul min HaTsad is mutter on Shabbos. That's the maths of the sugya. Now, what I really wanted to work through the sugya just for the sake of clarity, or some of the Rishonim don't call him Rebbe. I don't know if any of you noticed, in some of the Rishonim they just call him Rabbizobin, although not Rabbizobin. So it seems different size whether he had smichot. So either way, Rabbizobin Sadoi. I want to first work through Rabbizobin Sadoi, who says what you can do, that he holds that you can be toichu and bekush. In others, he holds Titul min the Gemara, and then we'll learn the Chachomim who say why they do think there's an issue. So I think it's easier to do it in reverse order. In others, first we'll explain what the heter is, and then explain what the is of the Tanakh is. So I'll just sort of work it through in reverse order. So where is the potential Titul min HaTsad over here? So in the sheets, in the original sheets that I sent, I printed the Rambam. And then I don't know if you've managed to see on the WhatsApp group, I pasted just around 8 o'clock, just in the start of the Seder, a Meiri. So, but the whole thing is worth working through, the Meiri and the Ritva and the Rashba and so on. But for now, in the Rambam, it seems that the Titul min HaTsad is because of the Shiur that occurs in the Teven and the Gecholim, as you take the loaf or the fruit out. That's how the Rambam seems to learn. We'll look in a minute at the Tanakh, but in Rashi it's clear that the Tanakh says that if they're megula, if they're revealed, Rashi says there's no Titul min HaTsad whatsoever. But in Rabbi Zobin Tadai scenario, there is Titul min HaTsad. What's the Titul min HaTsad? It seems that as you lift out the fruit, you're also lifting up and shaking off the straw or the coal dust, whatever it is, or particles that attach themselves to the, and that's the Titul min HaTsad. So that's very easy to understand. That's Titul min HaTsad, that you're lifting up a fruit or a cake. But agav, your action indirectly is also being moved Muktza items, and that's called Titul min HaTsad. That's Titul min HaTsad. And for those who had the chance to look at the earlier sugya on Gimel and Beis, which we saw back in the day when we first started Muktza, we'll see that was also Titul min HaTsad in that scenario there. And if you had the chance to look at that, you'll remember the Rishonim referenced our Gemara at the time. At the time we hadn't yet seen it, but now we've seen both Gemaras. They'll reference our Gemara about whether Titul min HaTsad Shmei Titul or not. So this is how the Rambam learns the sugya of Titul min HaTsad. Or just maybe before we look at the, no, I'll say the Meiri and then I'll try and sort all of this out. The Meiri says that the Tiltul and HaTsad is because this is in the print I sent, it's in the 5th line of the Meiri. The Meiri says the Afal Pi Sheyesh Kam Tiltul and HaTsad Shai Metaltal HaTeven VaHaremetz Adi De Akusha Akaka. Nonetheless, Tiltul and HaTsad Lo Shmei Tiltul. So the Meiri seems to learn that the Tiltul and HaTsad is because you're moving the straw with the toothpick, with the needle that you're using, and that's the Tiltul and HaTsad, that you're moving the straw with the implement that you're moving. In other words, it's not that by lifting out the fruit or the cake, that the coal dust falls off or the tavern falls off, but as you stick the toothpick in to get them out, that's directly moving the coal dust or the tavern. So it's not that the fruit being lifted out moves it, but it's by directly moving it by adjusting it. So just to remind all of you, we touched on this when we learned off Mem Gimel on base. Basically, we were showing them that there are 2 chilukim that we need to think of when we have Tiltul and HaTsad. So the London's
the sound quality is
something and taking it, yeah. Oh,
the sound quality is pretty awful, I'm afraid.
Oh dear. Okay.
But I think it's down to the network on your side. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me try and mute switch networks. We may get cut off. Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay.
No better.
Let me know. Can't tell you. Just didn't say enough. That's fine.
Okay. Give it a try. Fine. Okay. 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 So let me know if there's issues, but we'll try and carry on. So just to remind you what we saw in the sugya of Daf Mem Gimel, on the Mem Gimel, there was shown in there. So the londas of Tiltul and HaTsad is that I'm not directly engaging with the Muktza item. I'm moving a non-Muktza item, and incidentally, the Muktza item is getting moved. So there is shown in there. Asked really a Shiur in the sugyas. Our Gemara seems to say that Tiltul and HaTsad lo shmei Tiltul, and the Gemara over there seems to say that the conclusion is that Tiltul and HaTsad shmei Tiltul. And all the Rishonim said variants of the following answer: that if I'm trying to move the Muktza item through a non-Muktza item, but my intention is my action is aimed at the Muktza item, then we paskin Tiltul and HaTsad shmei Tiltul. Whereas if my action is aimed at the non-Muktza item, and it just happens to be that the Muktza item is being moved, that's where we paskin Tiltul and HaTsad lo shmei Tiltul. Does this ring a bell to anyone? Is this familiar? Yeah, that was the chiluk the Rishonim said. So again, in the case of the Gemara over there, where my intention, let's say, is to move the mace or some other Muktza item, even though I'm moving the mace through another object like a mitzvah, nonetheless, and that's Tiltul and HaTsad because I'm not directly engaging with the dead body. I'm engaging with the stretcher, the mitzvah, and the body is just moving by itself. Nonetheless, Tiltul and HaTsad shmei Tiltul, because I'm even though physically, I'm not engaging directly with the Muktza, but in terms of aim and intentionality, I'm using the Muktza as an implement to the non-Muktza as an implement to move the Muktza, and therefore Tiltul and HaTsad shmei Tiltul. There was a man to Omer that said, even in that case, there's a sliding scale. There's an opinion that says, as long as I'm indirectly moving Muktza, even though my intention is to move the Muktza, and if in terms of aim and goal, I'm directly engaging with the Muktza, nonetheless, physically, I'm not directly engaging with the Muktza, and therefore that's called Tiltul and HaTsad. But we don't paskin like that. We paskin that type of Tiltul and HaTsad, shmei Tiltul. That's what the Rishonim said. In our sugya, however, I'm trying to engage with a non-Muktza item. I want to get the fruit out. I want to get the Paga out. I want to get the chaburah out. I want to get the loaf, the cake out. In that case, I'm directly engaging with non-Muktza. My aim is to move the non-Muktza. And physically, I'm not moving Muktza. So therefore, neither physically nor in terms of conceptually what I'm aiming to do, am I aiming to move the Muktza. And therefore, we pass Titul min HaTsad, lo shmei Titul. That's the Gemara over there. Now, that's the background. That's what we saw in the previous sugya. Over here, we seem to have a machlokas between the Rambam and the Meiri, what the scenario of the Titul min HaTsad is. The Rambam says the scenario is, I'm moving the Paga, the fruit, out of the Teven, and the Teven gets, falls off as I do it, gets shaken off as I do it. That's Titul min HaTsad of the Teven. Why is that Titul min HaTsad according to the Rambam? Because the Teven isn't directly being engaged with physically. I'm moving the fruit, and the Teven is just falling off. And nor is it getting nor am I aiming at it conceptually. I'm not trying to move the Teven. I'm just trying to get the fruit, and the Teven is getting moved. That's what the Rishonim said, and therefore that's called Titul min HaTsad, lo shmei Titul. The Meiri, when I saw the Meiri, to me the Meiri is saying a bigger chiddush. The Meiri says that I'm doing Titul min HaTsad using the toothpick itself, using the sharp, using the kush or the karka itself. What's happening? I'm moving them through this implement, and nonetheless, that's called Titul min HaTsad. Now, so he seems to be picturing that I'm moving the straw or the coal out of the way in order to get access to the fruit, in order to lift it out. So in that case, that is quite interesting, because it's true I'm only indirectly handling the coal or the Teven, but my aim in so doing is to move the coal or the Teven. Why? Because I want to get the fruit out. So my proximate aim, my immediate aim, is to move the Teven or the coal. My ultimate aim is to move the fruit out. Is that called a directly engaging with the Muktza or not? Interesting question. The Meiri seems to think that that's not called directly engaging with the Teven, even though I'm using the toothpick to move aside the Teven in order to get access to the fruit. So that's an interesting kiddush in Halacha, that even that is not called even that is called Titul min HaTsad. Is everyone with me in the maths of what we're saying? Yeah, Max? It's okay?
Is it allowed?
The Rabbi Zobin says that Titul min HaTsad lo shmei Titul. And where's the Titul min HaTsad? The Rambam says the lesser chiddush. The Rambam said the Titul min HaTsad is I'm shaking the Teven off the fruit. Fine, that's classic Titul min HaTsad, like we saw in the Rishonim in Men Gimel. My aim is not to engage with the Muktza. My aim is to engage with the fruit. It just happens to be the Muktza gets shaken off. The Meiri says the bigger chiddush. I don't know why the Rambam would agree or disagree. That's not how he learns Pshat and Gemara. In the Meiri, you see a bigger chiddush. I'm moving the coal directly out of the way by stabbing with this kush, and nonetheless that's called Titul min HaTsad because my aim is to get the fruit out. But that's even though in the immediate action I'm doing, my action is one of removing the coal out of the way. Nonetheless, that's called indirect engagement, Titul min HaTsad. Why? Because my real aim is to get to the fruit, even though what I'm immediately doing is sweeping the Teven out of the way. Nonetheless, that's called Titul min HaTsad. Yeah.
Is that really what Mary's saying? I can see how you think he's saying that reading the fourth line, but if you read the third line going into the fourth line, I think he's not saying that at all. I think he's saying exactly what everyone else is saying. If you read, where did it start? Where did it start? I just yeah, exactly. So for sure, the fourth.
Yeah. The line before, it's true. He says that.
That's leading into the bit. I think he's just expressed himself in a slightly unclear way in the fifth line, but I think that leads on directly from the fourth line. He's still talking about the case where you're spearing the thing and lifting it up, and the Teven or the coal is falling off. I think
there's no type of way of reading. You don't have to see that the Krishna Karka is being moved like the mushed out of the way, but as you stab something in, you must be moving it.
Yeah, somewhat. I don't mean pushing it out of the way radically, but just minimally.
The action of stabbing it in moves the coal, and that is a Titul min HaTsad. You don't really need the coal, so it happens to be it's in the line of the.
I think he's just saying. I think all he's saying is that there's almost a double min HaTsad. It's doubly indirect. He's moving the cake or the fig with the spear, and so the spear is the ultimate thing that you are directly moving. You're holding on to the spear thing, you're lifting it up. So the thing you're moving directly is the spear. You're indirectly then moving the fig, and with a double degree of
With you that you're arguing with me because the Meiri is a hard Meiri to read, and I'm delighted at the Ian and the thought you've put into reading the Meiri. I spend a lot of time puzzling over this Meiri because of this issue. I can't say what you're saying is ridiculous in the Meiri. I hear your point. It doesn't seem to me the best reading the Meiri because it's.
But the Meiri understand the idea from the Gula case is that as you pick it up, inherently it's going to touch and the straw is going to fall off. And so it's not really finished that as you pick something up, the straw is going to fall off. That's the random pitch of tilting it up. So maybe it's not going to pitch. Like in any case, it's going to move through it. There's no way of physically moving the Paga out of HaTsad without ever having straw fall. And so you don't move the Paga out of the cold. The fact that you can stab it in this is completely covered. If you can, I know I'm going to do the holes. That to me would be that is the.
I'll tell you the truth. In the Meiri's reading, I was worried also about the language of the Gemara, and unless you say like you're saying, because Rabbizobin says, they move by themselves. So if he means, and he does say menaris me'aleim on the first part. So if you say like you're saying that the menaris me'aleim means just by dint of pushing in the kush karka that pushes them to the side, then that would explain this language of the Meiri. Nonetheless, it seems in your point, it seems to me the substance of what I'm saying remains, which is that there's a chiddush in the Meiri that even though I'm directly moving them to the side in order to get the kush in, nonetheless that's called Titul and HaTsad. In other words, my immediate aim is to move them out of the way. My purpose in so doing is to get the fruit out, and that's called Titul and HaTsad. Yeah.
I think we were on the same line as you and the Meiri, even a bigger problem on the Rambam. Because in the Rabbanan, where parts of the items that you build, and therefore you don't have to use the toothpick.
Yeah.
It seems like there's no, well, at this point, Rashi and the Meiri, there's no question of tilt on that side. It's not happening there. And that is the case when you lift the item up, and some of the sand will fall off. So the fact that you're moving the sand with the motor item together, in the first case, in the case of the one, and it doesn't appear according to Meiri and Rashi, there's no tilt on that side there. So that probably can't be that the sand, that you're moving the sand by dint of removing the item. It must be that you, by putting the stick, it's the stick that creates a tilt on the stuff, outside. I
understood Rashi to be saying more radically than you're saying. I understood Rashi to mean that the top part is completely clear of sand, of coal or taven. And Muktza means part of it in the sense that part's immersed, the whole top is uncovered. And therefore, when you lift it out, you're not moving Muktza at all. Just by lifting it out, the vacuum is, a hole is left, and then the straw, the coal falls into that. But you're in your action, you're not doing anything at all. That's how I understood Rashi. We'll get in a few minutes to Rabbanon, but that's why I understood Rabbanon. In which case, it's not relevant to the Rashi's not taking sides. We don't write one way or another in the Meiri Rambam in Rabbizobin today.
It's different between active and passive movement. There's indirect active.
Correct. Yeah.
Active,
Right, Rashi learning any movement that happens is a second stage. It's not inherent in my action at all. So yeah.
I'm just focusing a lot on the word magbia,
Yes.
Rashi and the Idi refer to magbia. Thankfully, the magbia is the form of Muktza when you actually do magbia. But if things happen to be no foul, that seems to be the opposite of Muktza. So I was thinking that seems to be just be a critical sort of phrase. It's magbia. HaTsad, magbia makama medula, BaTeven nishmak v'nofel. And similarly, the Meiri focuses on the word magbia. They're not saying magbia HaTsad, but then it's an emotion. I was thinking the magbia is an act of tilt, but nofel isn't.
No, I thought he specifically said in the magbia case, in the third guy, he's talking about the case where you've got something which it's exposed. The item you want is exposed. And therefore, when you take it out, some of the you fill the vacuum, but that's not at all.
Right, so that's the Rabbanon, that's like Rashi.
That's not
Yeah.
at all Titul.
Correct. So I know Anselm's going in that. Anselm's,
He talks about air, in the case of Titul and HaTsad, it's talking about movement which occurs.
You're right, but Adam's point is in the Tanakama, who's talking about which according to the Meiri and Rashi, there's no Titul and HaTsad because it's even less than Titul and HaTsad. I would agree with your point. I think you're correct. In the Tanakama, according to Rashi and the Meiri for that matter, there's no Titul and HaTsad because I'm not lifting up the straw or the coal with the fruit or the chaburah. I'm simply removing the fruit and the chaburah, and these fall into place without me doing any lifting at all of them, which we're calling a second stage movement. But maybe you're right. Maybe the point is I'm not lifting up; it's just falling into place. All fine points, and that's all in Rashi and the Meiri that say there's no Titul and HaTsad in the Tanakama. But now we get to Rabbizobin Tadoi. So here, wrongly or rightly, I heard in the Meiri a nuance that struck me as being more than the Rambam. I heard the Meiri as saying not just am I lifting up the kol or the teven with the fruit or the chaburah, but I'm also somehow moving aside directly with the kush or the karaka. But I accept that that's an attempt at a reading of a slightly unclear Meiri. So I'm not going to wage war against your reading, and it's a legitimate point. If you're right, it definitely makes our life simpler because then we don't have to worry about this machlokes to show him. The problem is it's a bit of a poorly phased Meiri. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of it.
If we're saying this is a reading, how do we read what is the stabbing tool like action for the other saying that there's no sign of lifting up? As if the stabbing is no consequence at all.
Right, maybe they view the stabbing as having no consequence at all. Either because that movement is minimal, it's just a thin reed that that's stuck in a needle, a toothpick that's stuck in, or maybe the nature of the straw and the coal is that the little gaps in between, and you can just stick in between and nothing will move. In practical setting, I think you're right. You're correct. It's, by definition, if it's covered completely and you stab into it, by definition, you should be moving something. But the Meiri is a chiddush in the Lomdus. That's cool. I think there's a chiddush in the Lomdus, the Meiri, that's called Titul and HaTsad. You're right. What I mean, if it's completely covered with straw or coal, how can you get access to it without causing some movement? Yeah.
Why does the Gemara talk about spin or something very thin? Surely it means it goes through, just maybe passing through the straw and then stabs the fig, as opposed to a sort of clamp or something that would be much more clumsy. But also, if we're worried about moving the straw, then what's the difference between something which is sort of surgical and goes through, or something larger?
I think you're right. I think according to the Meiri and Achanami, according to the Meiri, you could take a fork or a spoon and brush away the coal and take your cake out.
Or a spear or some spindle or something very thin.
The Meiri seems to be saying Lav Dafka. I don't know.
Yeah. Why
I think that's true according to the Rambam. I don't think that's how the Meiri is reading the sugya. Unless.
Then why according to the Meiri? Does it need to be regular enough for you to grab it? It shouldn't be regular at all.
What's he say that?
And it's not. That's a different opinion.
In Rabbizobin Tadoi, it's not Makuna at all.
But
it's not Makuna at all, and I think your point. I mean, who was just saying about the yeah? I think according to the Meiri, it's I don't know. It's Lav Dafka. He seems to be saying you're moving it directly. I don't know. Yeah. But then he carries on. No, the imlav, he says, that's the end of the quote of the Gemara. That's a quote of the Gemara, by the way. When he said, this is really the crux of the different ways of reading Meiri. I'm reading those words of the imlav teichiv beim kusher karka magbiim BaTeven eremetz naris maleim, as all of that is a quote of the Gemara. And then he says, now he explains the Gemara. The other HaTsad, and now he explains the Gemara very poorly if he doesn't mean like me. The other HaTsad, he should say, Sharei metaltel HaTeven v'eremet al yedei ha-chaburah, or al yedei ha-Paga. He doesn't say that. He's in metaltel al yedei ha-kusha karka. Why doesn't he say al yedei ha-chaburah ha-Paga? So I think he's explaining the first line is just a direct quote of verbatim of the Gemara, and the second line is where he says the lomdas of how he's explaining the Gemara that you're moving out of the kushal garka. I hear the objection to my reading, but I think it's the better. I do think it's the better reading. Yes.
Sorry, just going back to the Rambam for a second.
Yes.
First halach of the Rambam sounds like you can use your hand to move a mutter item where it's inevitable you'd be moving an awesome item alongside.
What halacha yodalid?
It doesn't say that the passage is still from outside. If you have a situation where two items are inextricably linked, as long as your intention is to move the mutter item, pick it up with your hands and move it. I mean, it doesn't say pick it up with your hands, it doesn't say you can put them outside.
No, because it doesn't say pick up with your hands. He says zman shmat.
But then it's HaTsad. To say that the HaTsad is a complete limitation on the first one, it's a strange way to say it. If you say that only in the case of Titul and HaTsad can you move the two items together. Which is why I think we were struggling to see how the second halacha.
But he says clearly not. He says he says in halacha yodalid. So it's clear you can't directly move the davar asa. It's only if the davar asa is moved with the davar mutter.
But you don't need to do Titul and HaTsad.
That is Titul and HaTsad according to the Rambam. Rashi says Titul and HaTsad is kilach hayad, indirect. The Rambam learns Titul and HaTsad is you're moving A and B is moved with it.
Yeah, the indirectness here is that you can't, and the phone moves with it. That you're directly acting on the coffee cup, but the phone also has to move. But you're a direct action. So the HaTsad is because.
Karen's point is from the first line of the Rambam. The Rambam says, so it sounds like you can just move the same. But he carries on. He says metaltal imay. So I don't think that's the correct reading in the Rambam. He says metaltal imay. Okay, so either way, that's what I wanted to go over for today in the Meiri, and I think despite the critiques, I think this is the correct reading in the Meiri. For Sunday, when I'm Shir, if you haven't done so already, now is time to work through the two types. I think we have two. Three. Okay, I'm only going to speak about HaTsad, Paga, and Hypogla. We'll work through Hashem on Sunday. Have a good evening, and we'll be back. No. That was the number one thing for everyone to do.